Hello loves, welcome back to another episode of City Girl Summer.
Shut those weary eyes.
We're outside today, so it might be a little noisy. If you're new here, I'm Daniela Nobles, and if you're returning, then welcome back. It's lovely to see you. Yeah, it was kind of a sad day because it's my last meeting in the industry, IRL, and then we're gonna go on to Zoom. But I'm calling them meetings in the industry because I want to protect my privacy of my project and what we're doing, and the privacy of the person I'm working with. But when things become more clear, I will share with you guys some details. As it was, I've loved getting to know the person I'm working with, and it's just honestly been a dream. There's been so much going on this summer, but all of it is so positive. But it's been a lot, and also this is one of our last episodes of City Girl Summer in the city. But do not worry, we are going to continue City Girl Summer. It's just going to be in the suburbs. It's honestly been a dream. Today we're going to talk about creating a quality character. So if you think of any book, I think we all know that characters make the story and they make what you love about the book. So like any movie, I feel like characters can be so comforting for us, and they can also be so infuriating for us if we don't think they're making the right decision, or if they're a bad person and the other character doesn't know it. There's a lot of different ways to play with that, but one thing you have to have in most, if not all of your characters, is a connection, right? Your main character has to have a connection with the reader or the watcher. Same with like pretty big side characters, and even protagonists too, I think, need that. If your reader is not attached to it, then they're not going to be into the book. Like, I said this before in coming up with like the ideas video, which if you have not watched that, I have a coming up with the ideas video and I have a creating a storyline video. So if you want to go back and watch those two after this, or come back to this, whatever way you want to do it, those are there for you too if you need some help. But if you already came up with the idea, if you already came up with the storyline, this is where you want to be. Characters, there's so much you can do with them. You can give them so much depth at the beginning and we love them immediately, or you can keep them a little mysterious and we don't really know what's going on until later in the book. We kind of feel like we're unraveling them and getting to know them, which is what one of my favorite things to do is. There's those comfort characters, and obviously if you're a writer or make films or whatever, if you are somebody who has the ability to create a character, you're going to want it to be a comfort character for somebody. You're going to want someone to fall in love with this character and relate with what they've been through, and be able to sit here and be like, this character is truly amazing because blah 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 blah, or I hate this character because blah 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 blah. But you gotta have reasons. Whatever you do, you have to have the best characters, otherwise the storyline really doesn't matter. Because, put it like this, okay, if you have this crazy story at school, or like, I don't promote gossip, but like this crazy piece of gossip or something, you're not gonna care if it's a random person you don't know, but you're gonna care if it's your best friend. So basically what you want to do is you want to get your best, like, you want to make the character feel like they're the reader's best friend, or which a lot of writers do successfully. If you look at Book Talk, make the love interest feel like the character's boyfriend or girlfriend. So there's a lot of different ways to do this. I like to start with the main character and developing them before I develop anybody else around them. Kind of think of it as a web. Starts with the main character because the story is about them, and it revolves around them because that's what it is. I have a checklist of things that the character has to be. Hear me out, because this sounds a little interesting, but I think that this checklist like really makes sure that you don't have like a character or like parts of a character that aren't needed and are just like kind of diluting the plot, and also too that like you keep these in mind when you're creating your character, to save you a lot of work and time and energy and love. So number one, the character has to serve the plot. If the character is not serving the main character or trying to corrupt the main character, we don't need that character. It has to like build to it or either add to the world, which I feel like is kind of common sense. Like if you have a character you really love but it's not working for this book idea, save it and take it later. Hang up with your idea. I told you to get a journal or notes app or whatever and write down every idea you had. You can do this with characters too. I would suggest like making it a different page or making it like a different section. Secondly, the character has to be independent. Now this does not mean that their personality trait has to be independent and they can't be dependent on another character, but you can't create a whole person and not give them their own personality, because every person is different. Even if you have a group of friends and you all look the same and you all talk the same, and you're all going to be different. No person is the same. Even like twins or something, no person is the same. And I think that that is one of the worst crimes in writing, when you create a character and don't follow through with it and you don't give it a personality. Because even if it's just in one scene or a couple scenes, or it's not really big to the plot, it's big to the reader, because we're reading it all for the first time and we don't know what's in the author's head. So we like really need to be like, why is this character here? Is it just random? And we also need to love the character no matter what, or hate the character. Like we need to have a feeling for the character. If I'm feeling nothing for a character, an author has done their job wrong. One of my big things is being original. So you can't just have like 6, although all the main characters the same, which is kind of what we already talked about a little, and don't like just have the same personality traits throughout the whole thing. If one person is like very hyper, then make the other person very calm. Like you gotta have balance, because you're not gonna have like a whole book of hyper people and a whole book of calm people, because then everything and nothing would happen. It would be either too much or too little. You gotta have like balance, like you do in real life. It's just like real life, but you're making it up. Be relatable. So either have someone be able to relate to it, or have it be an experience that someone's like feels sympathy for or wants to experience. Like you need to give this character something that the reader is gonna want to interpret and look at and read and feel. You want to feel it, right? So if I don't know, I wrote in my first project, it has like components of like a bad home life, and I hope that if I publish that book one day, reader with a bad home life will be able to look at my main character. That scared me. You need to have some component that relates to real life and who we are as people. The last check mark I would say is it factor. We all talk about like, it's been a popular TikTok trend for forever of like, oh, she's the main character, I'm the supporting character, like whatever, it's my world, you're just living in it. In a book or a movie or a show, it comes from main character, like it's their world, the other characters are just living in it, right? So you need to have each character seem like a character, right? Because you need to have them be interesting, you need to have them have like a factor to them that's intriguing enough for the reader to want to know more about them and continue reading. Let's talk about the main character and building around him or her or they. Main character in most cases is the narrator as well. So you want to make sure that their voice as a character and their personality traits are very developed, because the reader is going to have the most opportunities to interact with this character and to pick out all the flaws. So you want to make sure this character is very developed, that they're endearing, that they are realistic. Like a plot about the high school perfect cheerleader bully, then they're going to be a little mean, or they're going to be, I don't know, winning beauty pageants or whatever you want them to be. But if they're about the shy, weird nerd, then you're going to want to have them be a little quirky. Really, why I had it storyline and then character is because you're going to want to think, how does this character serve this storyline? It needs to be someone who's strong enough to pull it along, whose personality makes sense with the choices that character is going to make, with the relationships that character is going to have, with what happens in the plot. It's really important that you match your main character to what happens in your plot. Have so many different ways to be a character, but I can't tell you guys how to make a character because every character is different, and you literally, it's up to you. It's about your plot. I would need to see your plot, what you want to do. Like, this needs to be a conversation, not just you watching this video, but I can tell you the main character is the most important thing. Most important. And don't change your character because of what other people are going to think. Like, I think a great example of this is, and if he had been with me, a lot of people on TikTok are mean to Laura Nolan about Autumn because they say she's a pick-me, all these things. But if they changed Autumn so she was independent and all these different things and not the character she is, it wouldn't work as well. Like, you really need to trust yourself that you know what's best for the plot and for your character, and you can't change it because of you're scared of what other people will think of the character. It's so breezy and nice. I love summer. Now that we have our main character and we've discovered all the different ways we can take her or him or them, we need to move on to who's gonna support them in this crazy world. So how I like to think of it, it's like a little clock. You're gonna want to have people who support them and people who drag them down. So, and who they think could support them could be the people who drag them down. Like, if you had been with me for another moment, at first Autumn thought Jamie was her number one supporter, and then Jamie turned out to be a terrible boyfriend who didn't support her, right? So you gotta like think of it not from the main character's perspective, but from you, right? From the author looking at this being like, okay, who's supporting her, who's not? And I didn't actually do this in my book, but I like to think it's like an even number. Supporting characters could be people like their family, their best friends, their love interests, and antagonizing characters could be people like, I don't know, teachers, bullies, murderers, heads of countries. Like, I again, this really, I need to like see your Google document, like see your document of like what you're writing to really tell you like what to do. But I think you guys, you know what you're gonna do because this is your book, that I have trust in all of you that it's gonna be a great book. Let's say, for example, that we are writing a love story. Even people who you think actually supporting the main character could be the antagonist for the plot, right? I'm reading This Summer Will Be Different by Carly Fortune right now. Little plug because I love it. And this is a best friend's brother trope. So like, even though it's the main character's best friend, which does support her for the plot, it's the antagonist because, I mean, she's keeping the two of them apart, right? So even if she supports it, if the character is providing the conflict for the book, then it's on the other side of the spectrum in the antagonizing way. Even if you have the best relationship with the main character as you can, if it's driving the conflict of the plot, you're gonna put it in the antagonist. So it's actually a great example. If we have a very strong, independent main character, maybe she's popular or whatever, then you're gonna want to have someone who compliments her and pushes her into the way she wants to go, right? I want to have these characters that help the main character make the decisions and push her into a way you'd never think she would go. So if she's this popular, smart girl, independent, all the things, maybe her best friend is a dependent nerd or unpopular and really needs a lot of help, right? So like, you see how it needs to be kind of like a puzzle piece, right? Where like they fit together and it makes sense that those two people would be friends. You really gotta sell it. Writing a book is kind of like selling something because you gotta convince the reader that this is like actually what happened. For love interest, you want that chemistry. You want to write in a person who helps the other person, pushes them. So books are all about decisions that the characters make, which is why characters are so important. We need supporting characters who help push them to make the decisions that they were gonna make, even if it's a bad decision, even if they don't want the best for them. No matter what, it needs to be pushing them into a direction they would not have gone alone. Because if they would have thought of this alone, we don't need those other characters. We need those other characters because it makes a new thought into their head. That makes the plot go even way out of whack and into a place that makes it really interesting. We need that weird support system of pushing the other person as far as you can get. Like, if I think of my best friend, when I'm with her, I make different decisions than what I would make if I was alone, because I also take her thoughts into what I'm thinking, right? And I think that that's the same with characters too. Same with like a boyfriend or a family member or all these other things. Like, if you were like, even if it was a small thing, like, we're going to dinner, I want Indian, what food do you want? And then you like, it's a compromise kind of thing. Like, when you are with someone you truly love and care about, you compromise like what decisions you will make for the other person. And that's exactly what it's like too with books. A big thing and a very important thing. For antagonists, it doesn't always have to be the same. We can show it in a different way. We can show it, they still need to push the characters into a decision that they can't make alone, but it wouldn't necessarily be like sitting right next to them. It could be cyberbullying, or it could be, okay, they did this, so I'm gonna do that to get revenge on them. It could be a different way than like an encouraging friend. It could be something different. And usually antagonists should have a factor that makes the reader hate them. I'm not talking dislike, I mean hate. Whether that's cheating, whether that's murder, like, we need to have a factor in them that makes us hate them. If they're a narcissist, if they are a racist, if they're sexist, I don't know, something that universally makes whoever's reading this hate them. And I think that that will also make them love and stand up for the main character more, because if it's like these two fighting, you have to pick a side, and if you hate the antagonist, then you're gonna love the protagonist. With reading books like that, I mean, you might not even love the protagonist, but you'll like them a lot more if you hate the antagonist. A great example of this is Jamie and If He Had Been With Me, but also Max Hastings in A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. Like, you gotta have it in some sort of way of where they like, you cannot take this person. So I think very negative things would be great. Unlikable qualities on the inside. Now, they could be outwardly very kind, very sweet, all these things, but at the core of that person, you need to have some dirt. Or they're outwardly narcissistic, blah 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 blah, but then at the end of the book, at the core of that person, you see that they're very just kind and broken, which I also think is great. Like, that was A Good Girl's Guide to Murder with Andy Bell. You thought that she was this terrible person, and then when the third book comes around, you see, oh wait, she was actually just trying to survive. And I think that that shows a really good author to be able to turn these emotions around on a reader. And I also think for us, it makes a really good read of where it's like, okay, but this person had really good reasoning for what they did, so I don't really know where I stand anymore, and I don't know where the main character stands anymore, so like all these things. So along with having to move the story along and complementing and dividing the main character, you're also going to want to, once you have these base ideas of like, okay, the main character is this, I want them to be this, then you can really dive into, who are these people, what language do they speak, where do they come from, what is their style, how do they look, what ethnicity are they, like all these different things. What makes this character not a character but a person in our minds. How I do this too is just, I go on Pinterest, and I make a board for each character. So I'll show you one of my projects over here on my Pinterest. I'll make like the project as like a huge board, and then in different folders the different characters, and even sometimes different situations. So this is one of my projects, and I have like even to like character relationships I'll have that, or like certain characters I'll have that. So even if it's just like 1 to 2 pins or 20 to 50, like just having like a visual and then being like, I don't really see them as this, but I like the aesthetic in this picture, or like I don't really see the aesthetic in this picture, but I really like the physical, like kind of making it together. And then what I do, which is more precise, is I make Pinterest shuffles. I am very lucky to have Pinterest shuffles. Not a lot of people have it. If you don't know, Pinterest shuffles is like basically scrapbooking kind of. It's like cutting out pins from Pinterest and like plastering them on one piece of digital art, but it's like code entry only. So it was popular a couple years ago, but you need a code to get in. I also know there's other apps to do that, or you can even like go through magazines and do that. That's what I do sometimes. Or you could draw it. Just having like a visual to go back to, I think, is really important. And then also to me, once I have that down and I start writing it, I'll start a character reference table of like specific how to spell their names or all this stuff. Also, for naming a character, this is really hard for me. I look at street signs, I'll look at people's names in my contacts, and I won't actually take their contact name, but I'll take like a piece of it and then be like, I really like that piece of it. What can I just leave it at that, or can I add to it? Like, and I'll also go to like naming websites online, or also names on Pinterest. I love Pinterest so much, if you can't tell. Just having a well-rounded understanding of your own characters, of their personality, of their connection to the story and the main character, of their physical appearance and what they look like and what they show to the other characters. I think that'll really help you guys go write a great book. So I think I'm gonna end it here. Thank you so much. If you like this video, share it to another author that you know, or a reader, or want more videos like this and more how-tos. Either comment specifics, comment what your ideas are. I would love to hear that. Anything you want me to know. Like this video and subscribe, and I will see you guys soon.